Yes, it's time for a special appendix episode of Ulysses for Beginners, the series that I thought I had finished 2 years ago, but here we are again. For anyone who possibly remembers my commentary on the Wandering Rocks episode of Ulysses, you may remember therein there was a character, John Conmee, based on a real person, and he also, I think, shows up in A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. But I had talked about, at the time, in Wandering Rocks, there's a mention of this booklet that John Conmee wrote. It's called Old Times in the Barony. And you may remember that I was really frustrated because I could not locate this booklet online and I wanted to read it. But at the time, I could not do so. Well, no longer. I have secured a copy via the help of some cool librarians across this fair land of ours, and now I have a copy. And while normal people could care less, I was totally thrilled. It was like finding the Holy Grail, and I have now read it. I was particularly interested to see how John Conmee's prose style relates to Joyce's approximation of his thinking style, his talking style, how accurate that is. And after reading the booklet, I can say that Joyce does a pretty great job. There's this general, daintiness about his prose that is, it's laugh out loud ridiculous at times, and I think Joyce captures it quite well. Here's an example. This is the opening paragraph from Old Times in the Barony. There is a valley in the very heart of Ireland that merits more notice and regard than it has been its fate to get from this generation. For although it lacks the striking natural attractions that draw the summer tourist otherwhere, yet it is not without certain elements of the picturesque that make it fall but little short of the beautiful. The special charm that water lends a landscape, it certainly has. A noble inland lake, dotted with fertile islands, fills all the foreground as we look upon it from the north, and narrowing into a rapid river at its southern end, rushes out under the stately bridge and by the time-worn towers of an old historic town. I love that otherwhere instead of elsewhere. Also worth noting, Joyce starts to really play with voices. There's Joyce's voices in Wandering Rocks. And I talked about how Wandering Rocks is a microcosm to the micro to the macro of Ulysses, a fractal component that encases the larger whole. And John Conmee's pamphlet is interesting too because it also has some voices. So even within the John Conmee section, you can fractal into that even further and you find these voices. He does some, I learned this term recently, it's called Dialect, when you use the spelling, when you change the spelling of words on the written page to approximate the sound of how people actually speak with different accents. People like Mark Twain and Faulkner did something similar, but John Conmee does quite a bit. Here's an example. "Arra, master, what do you think will the Russia man be doing now? They say, James, that he's advancing with railroad rapacity to the imperial regions of the East." I love the contrast between the daintiness of John Conmee, that he's able to contain these voices, just as Joyce is able to contain multiple voices. Good for you, Adam, you're saying. That's great that you get to read that, but what about us, the little people? Why don't we get to read it? Well, guess what? I got you covered. I've uploaded Old Times in the Barony to archive.org where you can download it for free. Link down below. Go check it out. You're welcome, mother. So is Ulysses for Beginners finally over now? Perhaps. There is one other thing though, at least one other thing that I've been looking for that I have not successfully found, and that is newspapers published in Dublin on June 16th, 1904, Bloomsday. I'm curious to see what was going on in the news. I think that Joyce had access to those newspapers, and I'm guessing there may be some clues and hints relating to Ulysses, so I'd really like to check this out. I haven't been able to locate those. If you know of where those newspapers are online, published on June 16th, 1904 in Dublin, let me know down below, and if I find out about it, I will of course inform you, and we'll do another appendix episode. Won't that be exciting? For now, I'm going back, presumably, to my Finnegan's Wake course, which you can also check out if you're subscribed to my channel. If you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for?